Coming up, a firefighter tragically passes away after a crash claimed his life.
We'll run the gamut on a Monday morning and start with elevated fire conditions and then end up with afternoon and evening rain. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, Pittsburgh police investigate a homicide that took place over the weekend.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. We'll have those stories and more, plus a look at baseball and softball games over the weekend. But first, let's go over to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center, where we might be getting some rain today.
We are. We're going to get rain today.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about rain, but we're going to start with elevated fire conditions.
How is that even possible?
That's a great question. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
If we take a line and say we draw that line from Nevada down to Cassville, so the top, and then just a little bit of a diagonal there. Every place to the west of that right now, our humidity is going to sink down to about 30% early this morning. We had a number of grass fires yesterday with those red flag warnings, so we know the conditions are ripe. We've already seen it actually in action. Warm temperatures as well right now, and a good south wind.
But if you have wisdom,
also too, what we have forming out to our west is a good deal, of moisture with a low pressure system that's coming in off the Rockies. So when we look at the Skywatch Storm Tracker, we've yet to pick up any rain. As a matter of fact, almost have a little circle of some clear skies out there. But there it is, now developing over the panhandles, and so that's what will be headed our way, and combo that with just atmospheric levels getting a little bit wetter out to the west. But with that being said, for the next couple of hours, still prone to the wildfires because of the low humidity. So here's our weather trend for the next 24 hours. Temperatures are going to be great, very mild right now, up into the 60s once again. But here we go. We are going to get rolling with that rain that works in from the west-southwest. And so by the time we get to the afternoon hours, we're pretty much all encompassed right there with some heavy rains and some thunderstorm activity. Going to get a little thunder and lightning out of it as well to take us all the way into Tuesday morning. So obviously that alleviates our fire concerns. Then we got to worry about some localized flooding because once again, we're talking about 1.5 inches of rain. All the freezing precipitation, very much like last week, stays off to our west. In fact, that'll probably be even west of Wichita. But really, Bronte, setting up for a wet week. So yes, despite the fact that we're talking about those elevated fire conditions, those should be done by around the noontime, and then we're going to try to keep our head above water by the time we get to Friday. All
right, well, thanks, Michael. Police say one person was killed and at least 24 others were injured in a shooting outside a car show in Arkansas. It happened Saturday night in Dumas, a city about 75 miles southeast of Little Rock. Investigators say the gunfire erupted during a car show, which was a fundraiser for local schools. Children were at this car show, but police have not said if any of them were hurt. One person is in custody, though. There are reports there were multiple shooters involved. A Joplin police officer is assaulted by a suspect and another officer opens fire, injuring the suspect. According to Captain Trevor Duncan with JPD, just before 11:30 Saturday night, officers checked on 3 people who were walking near 9th and Connor in the alley. When officers made contact, one of the people took off running and an officer chased after them. That person then assaulted the officer and another officer fired, shooting the suspect. The suspect was taken into custody and is being treated at a local hospital. The officer who fired is on paid administrative leave per JPD policy. The suspect's name and officer's name are not being released at this time. The officer who was assaulted was treated and released at the scene. Their name is also not being released. The Joplin Police Department's major crash team is investigating a serious crash near the airport. Officials say around 3 o'clock Sunday morning, a car was traveling west on MacArthur Drive out of Webb City when it left the right side of the road and crashed into the concrete base of a traffic signal at St. Louis and Highway 171. The driver of the car was a 50-year-old woman, and she was transported to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Officials say she was not wearing her seatbelt. There were no other people in the car. A Southwest Missouri firefighter is killed in the line of duty. Just before 9 o'clock Friday night, 36-year-old Dustin Bransort was driving a fire truck to the scene of a structure fire in Greene County. The truck traveled off the right side of the roadway and overturned, killing Brandhorst. Brandhorst was a member of the Ebenezer Fire Protection District. Pittsburgh police are investigating a homicide. Officials with the Pittsburgh Police Department say they received a call regarding a shooting at 111 West Park Street. When officers arrived, they found 64-year-old Harold Sheets of Pittsburgh with a gunshot wound. He was pronounced dead on the scene. Officers questioned 61-year-old Verla Gilliand of Pittsburgh and then placed her under arrest, awaiting charges of second-degree murder. Police say they believe the incident came from an argument between the two. Gilliand is being held on a $150,000 bond. Webb City brought a little extra green to their farmers market. In honor of St. Patrick's Day and Dr. Seuss's birthday, the farmers market had green treats, crafts, and games, along with live music and the street cart, which was chugging around the park. They also held a benefit breakfast of green ham, egg, and cheese biscuits to raise money for World Central Kitchen, a nonprofit committed to serving hot food to people affected by global crisis.
For the month of March, we wanted to do something fun. Plus, it's Dr. Seuss's birthday month, so we thought green eggs and ham would be a really fun time.
The Webb City Farmers Market is open every Tuesday and Saturday, rain or shine. Well, on Saturday, the Empire Market hosted their third annual chili cook-off. First, second, and third place prizes were given to the top tasting chilies. Shoppers could pay $5 to taste the chili and tip which one they liked the best. All the money will go towards helping out a local organization.
All proceeds go to the Downtown Joplin Alliance, which is the organization that we're operated under, and we're raising money currently for our new commercial kitchen that will be starting construction on this spring.
The Empire Market is open every Saturday from 10 to 2. Sunday was a beautiful day to drag yourself down to Mocan Dragway. Mocan held their 10th annual Hot Rod Reunion and Swap Meet. Around 150 cars lined up to race and make their way to the top.
Today we're running our spring Hot Rod Reunion. It's a nostalgia drag race, car show, and swap meet. We do one of these in the spring and one in the fall. They're very popular here at Mocan.
Mocan opened up in 1962 and will be having a special race in July to celebrate their 60th anniversary.
A little bit of a spring push going to make its way through the Midwest, thanks in part to astronomical spring starting yesterday with the equinox. Temperatures right now very, very pleasant when you walk outside, but be prepared. Do not leave without the umbrella. And remember, we're talking about elevated fire conditions this morning, all the way to thunderstorm activity tonight. It's going to be a little bit of an interesting day. Now, our temperature is going to end up in the 60s for this afternoon. But here we go. We're going to get rolling this afternoon as well. It works in from the south and the west. Heavy rains at times throughout Monday afternoon into Monday. And here's the interesting part. When we get to Tuesday, while it looks rather sporadic, Tuesday's got the best shot to actually bring us additional thunder, lightning, and even some hail. And that is evidenced by the severe thunderstorm risk map for Tuesday into Wednesday. Now, granted, this is not Monday into Tuesday. This is Tuesday into Wednesday that we're looking about. There's your Monday into Tuesday, where we just stay in that marginal category. We kind of have an uptick there by the time we get to tomorrow. Bronte?
All right, well, that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News. KU faces off against Creighton for their shot at the Sweet 16. Plus, when you're nominated for an Oscar, you don't always win. That's what happened to Diane Warren. She's been vying for an Oscar for 34 years, and she's up again this year. We'll have her story if you stick with us. And not sleeping well? We have some tips for you to try and get that restful night's sleep. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Pittsburgh State softball team spent the final weekend of spring break back at home, hosting Minnesota State and Sioux Falls. Gorillas beat both teams on Saturday and played each team one more time on Sunday. In Game 1, Pitt State with the win 5-2 over Minnesota State as the Gorillas score all 5 runs in the 3rd inning. That includes a 2-run home run by Madison Szymanski. Game 2, Pitt State against Sioux Falls. Gorillas extend their lead in the 3rd inning. Taylor Lambert, get it. Solo shot out to right field. Next batter, Josie Solano. Or we just go back to back. How about that? Still going in the 3rd, 2-1 for Madison Szymanski. Thrice as nice. 3-run homer, her second home run of the day. Gorillas up 7-1. Later, Paxton Hayes rips one down the first base line. That's good enough for an RBI double as Pitt State cruises to the Game 2 victory. Final score, 12-5. Pitt State baseball closing out a series with Northeastern, splitting the first 2 games, and in the finale, a wild one as Brett Daly hits a grand slam in the top of the 9th to force extra innings. All right, so we go to extras. Gorillas add one more in the 10th. Northeastern answers in the bottom. Get this, a walk-off grand slam. 17-13 the final. In other words, if you showed up in the 9th inning, you saw all the action you could handle right there at about the span of, I don't know, well, how many outs could that have possibly been? Like 5-6 outs. Missouri Southern in the middle of a tough series with Washburn as the Lions took Game 1 of the series in walk-off fashion on Saturday. Another win would clinch this series for the Lions. Down 1 in the 6th, Henry Kusiak. Oh! That was a heck of a try right there by the right fielder. Tyler Ferguson comes in to score. Play not over. Here comes Kusiak. We got ourselves an inside the park home run. Get the man some oxygen. Lions lead 3-2. Next inning, Tragan Parker knocks one through the right side. RBI single. Here comes Case Tucker scoring. And then in the 9th inning, oi. All right, so the Lions had to go through 3 pitching changes because nobody seemed to get settled in. 3-run home run for Washburn as they take an 8-4 lead now. Now down to the final 2 outs, Cole Robinson gives the Lions some hope. First home run of the year. He's like everybody else on the team is hitting him. I want on board. But that would be all they could muster as Washburn hangs on and wins this thing 8-7. Missouri Southern wrapping up action at the Fairfield Classic on the softball side. Early start time for the Lions and fall to Winona State 7-1 early in the morning. And drop Game 2 as well against Concordia State 9-7. Some bright spots from Game 2 though. Yasmin Vargas, she had her first career home run, so congratulations to Yasmin. And Jose Topai and Leighton Withers, they also hit home runs in that game. Madness continues over the weekend. Second round of the men's NCAA tournament underway. Number 1 seeded Jayhawks blew by their first round opponent. And then on Saturday, up against Creighton in the second round. First half, Remy Martin. He had a really nice game. Mid-range shot off the nice dribble drive. Bench for, came off the bench. Later on, Alex O'Connell, the alley-oop to Arthur Kaluma, the foul. And then in the second half, here comes Ochai. Had to wait for the Abaji train to get rolling. Up to Davis McCormick for the layup. Under 10 to go. Jalen Coleman lands. Drains the 3. KU up 9. Creighton did hang on. Trey Alexander, he had a nice 2-game tournament for the 2 games that Creighton was in it. Long 3-pointer for him, but with 1 minute left to play, Abaji, boom, the finisher. Close call. Kansas does pull it off. Kind of pulls away there at the end, 79-72. Jayhawks advancing to the Sweet 16. Where they will play number 4 seeded Providence. Providence has been impressive so far. I've watched too many. Providence plays a lot of Saturday morning games on our sister station on Fox 14. And so I've watched a lot of Providence games this year. They're beatable. And then go look at the way they handled their first 2 opponents in the NCAA tournament. You go, Michael, I think you and I were watching 2 different teams because they've been really good the last 2 games. Arkansas with a second round game on Saturday against New Mexico State. J.D. Note all alone for the layup. That was a great outlet pass right there. This game was just tremendously ugly. You just wanted it to end. Arkansas would win this thing, but get this. In the first half, at one point, New Mexico State had 13 points, 1 assist, and 12 turnovers. That's how bad that first half was. It was almost unwatchable. Arkansas wins at 53-48. Razorbacks earning a spot in the Sweet 16. Up next, they get number 1 seeded Gonzaga. That game is going to be on CBS come Thursday. Still to come on the KOM Morning News, the president of Ukraine says that if Russia and Ukraine cannot come to some kind of negotiations, it will result in World War III. And to check on our 7-day forecast when the KOM Morning News returns. Start with a live look over 7th and Rangeline as we find ourselves 20 minutes past the top of the hour. Current conditions, a very comfortable 51 degrees. Look at that humidity, already down to 52%, and that's why we're going to talk about elevated fire conditions and then thunderstorms. Yep, back to back. A little bit of an interesting start to a 4-state spring right there. As far as what we're looking at temperature-wise, let's roll a whole bunch of 51s through the Pittsburgh, Joplin, Carthage corridor, 53 in Lamar, 45 in Anderson, and 51 right now in Chanute. We've got a little circle of clearing skies. No precipitation to speak of, but a whole lot of action beginning to bubble up out to the west. And what we'll have happen with our weather trend is by the time we get into the later morning hours, probably before we even get to noontime, we'll have the rain begin. And at points, we're going to have some heavy, widespread rain. So here it is as it works in. There you go, right about the noon hours. It comes in from the south-southwest and then works its way kind of from west to east. So if you're up in the northeastern section of the 4-state, you'll be the kind of last one to receive the heavy rain. Live down in the southwest, that's where you're going to start with it and have the majority of the evening and nighttime with it as well. So some heavy rain right there. We'll have some flooding concerns, localized flooding concerns from Monday night into Tuesday morning. Now, this is where it gets interesting because while it wants to taper off on Tuesday, we actually are going to have thunderstorm activity right there for Tuesday morning to the point where the Tuesday afternoon thunderstorms, as those roll through right there, those are actually the ones that have a little chance for more high winds and hail than what we're going to experience on Monday. So flooding concerns on Monday, and then Tuesday the chance for some high winds and some hail with that rain. Cold front will drop in on Wednesday and Thursday, but we're really going to spend the next 48 hours more so concerned about the thunderstorm activity. On the KOAM News Now Facebook page in our morning Insta poll, hear a lot about the movies and actors nominated for the Oscars, but the Academy Award also a coveted career prize for the people who helped create those unforgettable songs. Danye Bacchus introduces us to songwriter Diane Warren, who after 34 years is looking for her first Oscar win.
Diane Warren's name is synonymous with some of music's biggest hits. Her songs have been featured in more than 100 films. Her first Oscar nomination for Best Original Song came in 1987 for Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now in the movie Mannequin. The legendary songwriter also earned a nomination for Because You Loved Me, featured in Up Close and Personal, and Don't Want to Miss a Thing from Armageddon.
We've won Emmys, Grammys, Golden Globe, but yet to win an Oscar. Is this a bucket list item for you?
I'm not gonna lie, I would love to win an Oscar.
Over more than 3 decades, she's racked up 13 nominations, making her the most nominated woman in Academy Awards history without a win.
I'm the Susan Lucci of the Oscars.
She's looking to end the losing streak with her original song, Somehow You Do, from the Glenn Close and Mila Kunis movie, 4 Good Days.
You have the words that you've been waiting to say all these years prepared.
What took you so long? I must have 12 crumpled pieces of paper somewhere. But I have things in mind I'm going to say. You got to come prepared because you never know.
Warren says if it's another year without a trip to the stage, she is still pleased to have been nominated.
If I had a choice between, winning 20 years ago or whatever and never getting nominated again, I would take this. I'm still here. I'm still in the game. I'm still doing my best work. And that's what's important to me.
She's also hoping the 13th time is a charm. Danya Bacchus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
A little bit of a star-studded category as Diane Warren finds herself up against Billie Eilish, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Beyonce, Van Morrison. My goodness, Oscars are this Sunday. And by the way, for us here in the studio, Diane Warren has written so many hits and so many bangers that I know would be important to her. But that career solidified as platinum in a lot of our books. Oh, by the way, Diane Warren, also known for Unbreak My Heart. Shout out Tony Braxton. Be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, researchers give tips to improve your sleep. Motion Nutrition, a maker of sleep supplements, surveyed 2,000 people about their sleeping habits, finding only 1 in 10 people get good rest. Functional nutritionists advise the following: expose yourself to morning sunlight to raise cortisol levels. Don't hunch over the computer and sit up straight. Make sure breakfast has proteins, not all carbs, and watch out for overstressing cardio workouts as well as too much caffeine from stimulation from coffee. Well, there's some encouraging news for millions of Americans concerned about their unpaid medical bills. Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion announced Friday that they are removing nearly 70% of medical debt from consumer credit reports. The 3 large credit reporting agencies are responding to the financial crisis caused by millions of Americans hospitalized during the pandemic. Research from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau shows Americans racked up $88 billion in medical debt on consumer credit records as of June 2021. Black, Hispanic, young, and low-income consumers are the most likely to be burdened with unpaid medical bills. Now, starting July 1st, paid medical collection debt will no longer be included on consumer credit reports, and more changes are expected. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Starting off with temperatures, high 40s, low 50s. So no worries really this morning. Do want to point out that humidity is very, very low to the point where we have elevated fire risks this morning. And then we're going to be talking about thunderstorm activity for the afternoon all the way through really the end of the week. So here, let's put future track into motion here because we've got a whole lot of moisture that's beginning to bubble up out toward the west and to the south. And so later this morning is when we get underway. Heavy rain along with some thunder and lightning moving through. Localized portions of flooding, especially as you work down to the south and the west, where the rain will first arrive. And that's going to carry us all the way through the nighttime hours. Little Tuesday early morning break, but then we're going to be right back at it with rain Tuesday morning as well. And this Tuesday morning bout, that actually has the best chance to not only feed us some high winds, but some hail. Now, our temperatures remain steady for the next 2 days until we get into Wednesday and Thursday. Pretty good cold front there, drops us some 40 degrees down to, drops us 20 degrees into the 40s. And then we rebound just in time to get some sunshine as we head into the weekend.
Coming up, a firefighter tragically passes away after a crash claims his life.
Thunderstorms on the horizon for this Monday. Kick in later this morning, take us all the way through the evening. And then we've got additional rainfall on Tuesday. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, Pittsburgh police investigate a homicide that took place over the weekend.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. We're going to start throwing it over to Michael Hayslip for a look at the forecast, and we are looking at some rain.
Sitting back, we're waiting for it right now. Now, the thing is, Bronte, it's going to take a little bit because everything's formulating out to the west and down to the south right now. But we'll get to the radar, show you exactly where it is formulating because the action is starting to kick in here. This will be our first full day of astronomical spring throughout the 4 states with the spring equinox happening yesterday. Joplin sits at 51 degrees. That's the second time. I don't know why I got stuck on that. That's my fault. Joplin sits at 51 degrees right now. Certainly not too bad. Actually quite delightful because there's not a whole lot of wind right now. Southeast 8 miles per hour. And then as we look at our temperatures, kind of wide ranging because we do still hold on to some 45s down there in Grove, Anderson, and Miami, and compare that to the 53 that we have in both Monette and in Lamar. Now, the Skywatch Storm Tracker, Bronte was talking about the thunderstorm activity well. If we kind of bebop over here to the west, you'll see it beginning to formulate out there in the panhandles and stretching its way into southeastern Colorado. And everything it's going to do is kind of work its way up from the southeast right there with a combination of some Gulf moisture, but also a low pressure system that's moving in over the Rockies. Our weather trend for today, temperatures, not too bad. We'll roll 60s, pretty seasonable. But then by the time we get into the late morning hours and all through the afternoon and nighttime, here comes some good old fashioned spring thunderstorm activity. Now, as this moves through, localized flooding will be our biggest problem for Monday. Tuesday's a little bit different because it's not as widespread, but that band that pops up right there and works its way across the state line from Tuesday early morning into Tuesday afternoon and then is followed with more storm activity out to the west, That one's got the capability of some high wind to go along with some hail as well. So while the rain is more widespread on Monday, our severe thunderstorm activity a little bit more severe on Tuesday. And then I'll bring you a cold front.
Oh my gosh.
And highs will only be there in the 40s with additional scattered rainfall. No thunderstorms, just rain on Wednesday and Thursday.
All right, well, it's definitely spring in the 4 states.
We're going to see how much the old basements and the ground can absorb here in the next 4 days.
Oh, well, sounds good. Thanks, Michael. Police say one person was killed and at least 24 others were injured in a shooting outside a car show in Arkansas. It happened Saturday night in Dumas, a city about 75 miles southeast of Little Rock. Investigators say the gunfire erupted during a car show, which was a fundraiser for local schools. Children were at this car show, but police have not said if any of them were hurt. One person is in custody, though there are reports there were multiple shooters involved. Pittsburgh police are investigating a homicide. Officials with the Pittsburgh Police Department say they received a call regarding a shooting at 111 West Park Street. When officers arrived, they found 64-year-old Harold Sheets of Pittsburgh with a gunshot wound. He was pronounced dead on the scene. Officers questioned 61-year-old Verla Gilliand of Pittsburgh and then placed her under arrest, awaiting charges of second-degree murder. Police say they believe the incident came from an argument between the two. Gilliand is being held on a $150,000 bond. A Southwest Missouri firefighter is killed in the line of duty. Just before 9 o'clock Friday night, 36-year-old Dustin Brandhorst was driving a fire truck to the scene of a structure fire in Greene County. The truck traveled off the right side of the roadway and overturned, killing Brandhorst. Brandhorst was a member of the Ebenezer Fire Protection District. Well, when disaster strikes, first responders answer the call. And medical students at KCU's Joplin campus got firsthand experience of what that could look like. We'll tell you how a mass casualty simulation taught students about stressful situations they could face in the medical field. Where mass casualties can happen at any instance, whether it's a mass shooting, a car wreck, or even a pandemic. Well, KCU medical students are learning firsthand how to handle these situations.
You never know when you're going to be called in to respond to a mass casualty. You might be the first on scene and you'll have to kind of take care of, the injuries of people who were involved in the accident.
The exercise is called a mass casualty incident simulation. First and second year students learn vital skills to prepare them for these situations in the real world.
This is just a great early example of what we might be doing in the future.
Emma Bowman is a second-year student at KCU and wants to go into emergency medicine, specifically the Air Force. So she took part in Saturday's scenario.
Group of about 24 college-age kids, and they're going to be backpacking in Northern California. There's been a bunch of rainstorms, and unfortunately, that caused a mudslide and right through their campsite.
Oh my God, where are my friends?
This exercise gives students a wide variety of scenarios they may encounter in the real world.
Well, as you can imagine, with a massive landslide, you're going to have multiple abrasions, lacerations, broken bones. Sometimes, we'll have regular things that take place, heart attacks, diabetic emergencies, some of the common things, asthma attacks.
The medical students started off in the woods. There, the first years acted as the disaster victims, while second years played the role of EMTs and physicians, determining who needed the most urgent care, who was well enough to assist, and who couldn't be saved. It's something that medical professionals continue to face.
That's a difficult thing for any healthcare provider to deal with because, the way we're wired is we take care of everybody. Probably the most traumatic thing for healthcare providers in COVID is just not being able to give the care they're used to giving to everyone.
Next, students transported victims to their medical triage area, where they learned how to take care of victims in high-stress situations.
We're hoping that this kind of gives the students an opportunity to put themselves in a position that is very low risk and then kind of understand what is needed in such high stress situations.
At the end of the simulation, students learn what they did well and what they could improve on, so they can be prepared to help patients in the real world. In Joplin, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News. This was the first time the university hosted a simulation like this for students. They say they hope it can be an annual event. And now here's Michael with a look at your forecast.
Weather trend for the next 24 hours going to mimic our weather trend for the next 4 days, and the fact that we're going to have a whole lot of rain in the forecast this week. Now, temperatures today and tomorrow are going to maintain about 60-degree highs, but here we go. We get started later this morning. Going to bring us some bouts of some heavy rain as it works through. Thunder and lightning accompanying that, and then after an early Tuesday break, we are going to reload and have additional rainfall throughout Tuesday as well. Now, it's not going to be as widespread, but the interesting thing about Tuesday is it brings us higher wind and an elevated threat of hail.
Well, this morning we're discussing the Oscars. There's a lot heard about actors and movies nominated for the Oscars. You rarely get to hear about the musicians who are nominated for them. Diane Warren has been nominated again for an Oscar. She's synonymous with some of music's biggest hits, and her songs have been featured in more than 100 films. First Oscar nomination came for the Best Original Song from the movie Mannequin. Nothing's Gonna Stop Us didn't win, but she ended up with 13 more nominations. Some of these include Because You Love Me, featured up in Close and Personal. She also gained a nomination because of Don't Wanna Miss a Thing from Armageddon. She won Emmys, Grammys, and Golden Globes, but her eyes are set on an Oscar. This brings us to our Something to Talk About. Are you excited about the Oscars? We want to hear from you. Go to koamnewsnow.com/vote or check out our app or Facebook QR code.
Right now, our respondents, we got no excitement.
Oh,
yeah,
that's pretty sad to
so
start
well,
off.
and I think it's because the people know that Diane Warren certainly doesn't. It would probably mean the world to her, but with her list of bangers, yeah, I don't even know where to start with Diane Warren. I'm glad you brought up Don't Miss a Thing.
You know, I know these songs. I never knew who sang them. So now I can't believe she
that was Steven Tyler with Liv Tyler's daughter in the movie. Aerosmith did the song, but Diane Warren wrote the song.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, while we're talking about Diane Warren, if anybody's curious, I bet you could, if you just want to go like find a list of songs that she's written and how many of them are like, okay, don't look at the list of songs she's written.
Okay.
Just go find her Billboard Top 40s, and I bet it encompasses like 3 pages.
All right.
That's how successful she's been.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that is a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. David Daniel takes us through entertainment news in today's Hollywood Minute. Plus, the Marines killed in an accident during NATO training are identified. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News, more real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping World Watch, the historic humanitarian crisis triggered by Russia's lethal invasion of Ukraine is worsening as horrifying and merciless attacks on civilians are ramped up by Russian forces. Jen Sullivan has the latest.
As bombs burst, gunfire rings out in once peaceful Ukrainian streets, and Russian forces ramp up their attacks on civilian targets. In a bomb shelter, some sort of normality is found amid the chaos as Ukrainian children take an art lesson. Children like this, increasingly at risk in Ukraine, where the U.S. Defense Secretary says Russia is resorting to disgusting attacks on civilians because its invasion campaign has stalled.
We've seen deliberate targeting of cities and towns and civilians throughout in the last several weeks.
We're hearing all these horrific reports about targeting the school, the art school with 400 people hiding in the basement, about retirement home in Kreminne in elsewhere, where more than 50 people died.
Violence forcing 10 million people, including about 1.5 million children, to flee their homes.
I think that it's the worst crisis from the Second World War.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky now says he's ready for negotiations with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
We're losing people on a daily basis, innocent people on the ground. Russian forces have come to exterminate us, to kill us. If these attempts fail, that would mean that this is a third world war.
I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
The names of the 4 Marines who were killed when their Osprey aircraft crashed in a Norway town on the Arctic Circle during a NATO exercise on Friday have been released. They have been identified as 27-year-old Captain Matthew Tomkiewicz of Fort Wayne, Indiana, 30-year-old Gunnery Sergeant James Speedy of Cambridge, Ohio, 24-year-old Corporal James Moore of Catlettsburg, Kentucky, and 27-year-old Captain Ross A. Reynolds of Leominster, Massachusetts. There was no immediate word on the cause of the crash, but Norwegian police reported bad weather in the area at the time the aircraft went down. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. A Joplin police officer is assaulted by a suspect and another officer opens fire, injuring the suspect. According to Captain Trevor Duncan with JPD, just before 11:30 Saturday night, officers checked on 3 people who were walking near 9th and Connor in the alley. When officers made contact, one of the people took off running and an officer chased after them. That person then assaulted the officer and another officer fired, shooting the suspect. The suspect was taken into custody and is being treated at a local hospital. The officer who fired is on paid administrative leave per JPD policy. The suspect's name and officer's name are not being released at this time. The officer who was assaulted was treated and released at the scene. Their name is also not being released. The Joplin Police Department's major crash team is investigating a serious crash near the airport. Officials say around 3 o'clock Sunday morning, a car traveling west on MacArthur Drive out of Webb City left the right side of the road and crashed into the concrete base of a traffic signal at St. Louis and Highway 171. The driver of the car, a 50-year-old woman, was transported to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Officials say she was not wearing her seatbelt. There were no other people in the car. Police say 1 person was killed and at least 24 others were injured in a shooting outside a car show in Arkansas. It happened Saturday night in Dumas, a city about 75 miles southeast of Little Rock. Investigators say the gunfire erupted during a car show, which was a fundraiser for local schools. Children were at the car show, but police have not said if any of them were hurt. 1 person is in custody, though there are reports there were multiple shooters involved. Pittsburgh police are investigating a homicide. Officials with the Pittsburgh Police Department say they received a call regarding a shooting at 111 West Park Street. When officers arrived, they found 64-year-old Harold Sheets of Pittsburgh with a gunshot wound. He was pronounced dead on the scene. Officers questioned 61-year-old Verla Gilliand of Pittsburgh and then placed her under arrest, awaiting charges of second-degree murder. Police say they believe the incident came from an argument between the two. Gilliand is being held on a $150,000 bond. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Don't head out that door without an umbrella, whether it be today or the rest of the week. Our afternoon temperatures will be in the 60s for Monday and Tuesday. And we got rain coming as it works in from the west and the south. It's going to be all-encompassing. It'll start late this morning, take us all the way through the night. We'll have some bouts of heavy rain, some localized flooding as well, especially in those low-lying areas. Be prepared for that because as the rain continues to roll through all the way to Thursday, we're definitely going to have some travel concerns with some flooded roads. Temperatures down to the 40s for Wednesday and Thursday before we're back into the 60s for Friday and into the weekend. We'll be back with more KOM Morning News right after this.
Coda nabs another major honor ahead of the Academy Awards, and Kanye West will no longer take the stage at the Grammys. Here's David Daniel with the Hollywood Minute.
Coda wins big. The acclaimed drama took home the night's top prize at the Producers Guild of America Awards Saturday. Next up for Coda is the Oscars, where the streaming hit is up for Best Picture. With another trophy under its belt, Hollywood's biggest honor may not be far off. Kanye West has been pulled from performing at the Grammy Awards. The rapper has 5 nominations going into the April 3rd ceremony, including Album of the Year. But sources close to West tell CNN his performance was pulled due to concerning online behavior. The news comes after Instagram temporarily banned West for using a racial slur directed at Grammys host Trevor Noah.
We just want to say that we hit our goal.
Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher have raised millions of dollars for refugees fleeing Ukraine amid the ongoing Russian invasion. The couple previously vowed to match all donations up to $3 million, and they revealed in a video posted to their GoFundMe page that they've now brought in over $30 million for relief efforts. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Mila Kunis was born in Ukraine and moved with her family to Los Angeles when she was 8 years old.
Temperatures right now in the low 50s. We had a couple high 40s out there, but it's a real good looking start. And right now our radar's clean. You will notice, though, that we definitely have some thunderstorms that are headed our way. They'll take part later this morning, moving in from the south and the west. And we're talking about easily picking up a couple inches here by the end of the week. We'll break down the 7-day forecast when we return right after this.
Coming up, a Greene County firefighter loses his life when his truck overturns.
Waiting on the rain to roll in on this Monday morning. It will not only be here for today, but rain chances throughout the course of our week. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, the scene of a shooting turns into a homicide investigation for the Pittsburgh Police Department.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. I'm going to start things off by going over to Michael, and we are waiting for some rain to appear. Is that right?
We're not only waiting on the rain, but until the rain arrives, we find ourselves with elevated fire conditions. And you go, what in the world? How is that even possible? Well, the fact of the matter is, Bronte, is we've got a whole lot of moisture that's beginning to formulate out to the west and down to the south. But in the meantime, on our early morning hours, our humidity right now, 54%. That is extremely low for being this early in the morning. It has resulted in some very nice mild March temperatures, anywhere from 50 in Joplin, 52 in Neodesha, and 51 in Monette. A little bit cooler down to the south right there, 45s in Miami Grove and in Anderson. You'll notice the circle that gave us clear skies a little bit earlier on beginning to close in on us. Now the rain still hanging out pretty far to the west right there, so we haven't seen the formulation of it. We've got several hours before it arrives, but once it does, it really doesn't want to stop this week. So we'll get to the, say about 10, 11 o'clock hour, and there we go. That's exactly where it's going to roll in from, the south and the west. And once it's upon us here, it becomes all-encompassing. Spreads across the state line, east into southwest Missouri. Bouts of very heavy rain right there for our afternoon and nighttime hours, complete with thunder and lightning. Now, Tuesday morning, look at that. I get a little bit of a break. And you go, oh, are we going to be done? Nope, we're going to roll right through again. And as a matter of fact, that little line there, Tuesday, that's got the potential to actually bring us the best threat of some high winds and even some hail. So one of those things where once it starts, don't let your guard down, even when you do get a sporadic break every now and then. 60s for today and tomorrow, back down into the 40s for Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, finally, sunshine back into the 60s. Friday is going to be much needed. Just the fact that we can be like, okay, we don't have to worry about the rain today.
Yeah, well, this is definitely going to be a week where we should pay attention to the weather.
Good old-fashioned springtime. Yep.
It
officially got us.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. A Joplin police officer fires on a suspect who had just assaulted another officer. According to Captain Trevor Duncan with JPD, just before 11:30 Saturday night, officers checked on 3 people who were walking near 9th and Connor in the alley. When officers made contact, one of the people took off running and an officer chased after them. That person then assaulted the officer and another officer fired, shooting the suspect. The suspect was taken into custody and is being treated at a local hospital. The officer who fired is on paid administrative leave per JPD policy. The suspect's name and officer's name are not being released at this time. The officer who was assaulted was treated and released at the scene. Their name is also not being released. A serious crash near the airport over the weekend brings in the Joplin Police Department's major crash team. Officials say around 3 o'clock Sunday morning, a car traveling west on MacArthur Drive out of Webb City left the right side of the road and crashed into the concrete base of a traffic signal at St. Louis and Highway 171. The driver of the car, a 50-year-old woman, was transported to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Officials say she was not wearing a seatbelt. There were no other people in the car. A Southwest Missouri firefighter is killed in the line of duty. Just before 9 o'clock Friday night, 36-year-old Dustin Brandhorst was driving a fire truck to the scene of a structure fire in Greene County. The truck traveled off the right side of the roadway and overturned, killing Brandhorst. Brandhorst was a member of the Ebenezer Fire Protection District. A report of a shooting turns into a homicide investigation for Pittsburgh police. Officials with the Pittsburgh Police Department say they received a call regarding a shooting at 111 West Park Street. When officers arrived, they found 64-year-old Harold Sheets of Pittsburgh with a gunshot wound. He was pronounced dead on the scene. Officers questioned 61-year-old Verla Gilliand of Pittsburgh and then placed her under arrest, awaiting charges of second-degree murder. Police say they believe the incident came from an argument between the two. Gilliand is being held on a $150,000 bond. Well, Ukrainian officials say they rejected a demand to surrender the port city of Mariupol by early this morning. Residents there have faced some of the harshest attacks by Russian forces. This comes in the wake of Russian forces making far less progress than was anticipated. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin believes Russian President Vladimir Putin will escalate his attacks to build momentum. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said to CNN he's willing to negotiate with Putin, but rejected a proposal to recognize separatist regions. President Biden plans to meet with NATO allies in Brussels and Poland later this week to discuss the humanitarian crisis. Sunday was a beautiful day to drag yourself down to Mocan Dragway. Mocan held their 10th annual Hot Rod Reunion and Swap Meet. Around 150 cars lined up to race and make their way to the top.
Today we're running our spring Hot Rod Reunion. It's a nostalgia drag race, car show, and swap meet. We do one of these in the spring and one in the fall. They're very popular here at Mocan.
Mocan opened up in 1962 and will be having a special race in July to celebrate their 60th anniversary. Well, on this day in 1980, President Jimmy Carter announces that the U.S. will boycott the Olympic Games scheduled to take place in Moscow that summer. The announcement came after the Soviet Union failed to comply with Carter's February 20th, 1980 deadline to withdraw its troops from Afghanistan. Canada, West Germany, and Japan joined the U.S. in boycotting the Games, although Carter failed to convince Great Britain, France, Greece, and Australia to also observe the boycott. Carter also deployed embargoes and fishing restrictions in addition to the boycott. In retaliation, the Soviet Union boycotted the 1984 Olympic Games held in Los Angeles.
So really, as a child growing up in that time, you didn't understand the impact of the Olympic Games until 1988, because the 1980 Olympic Games, Summer Olympic Games, nobody paid attention to because there weren't any United States athletes there. And in 1984 in LA, felt like a bit of a farce because it wasn't the world's greatest athletes. It was dominated by the United States because the Soviet Union declined to participate. So it wasn't really until the Summer Olympics in '88 in Seoul that I think my generation was like, oh, this is what it looks like when the best compete against the best.
Wow.
It was crazy.
That is crazy. I didn't know, I knew a bit about this, but that is wild.
Still one of the most unpopular decisions that you'll read about historically from that Carter administration because of the men and women who put so much hard work into training for that, to have it ripped out from under them. And
I can't imagine.
Yeah, and as we know, 4 years is a world away when you're a world-class athlete. Your body changes a lot in 4 years, and maybe you don't have the ability to participate again 4 years down the road. Our weather train, Bronte, going to bring us a lot of rain is exactly what the trend's going to do, not only for today, but all the way through the week. Remember, later on this morning, do not leave without that umbrella from really Monday through Thursday. Temperatures will be in the 60s, so that won't be a problem. The problem will be just how much water can the old backyard absorb? because we're going to roll rain chances all the way from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday before we finally get some sunny skies on Friday.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News. We've got an exclusive interview with Keely Adams from NEO A&M to tell us about an upcoming craft expo. Plus, the Senate begins a historic confirmation hearing today to decide what could possibly be the first black woman to hold a seat on the United States Supreme Court. And scientists in England say they found a new way to relieve anxiety. And no surprise, it involves snuggling up with a pillow. You're watching the KOAM Morning News, more real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch this morning, a historic Senate confirmation hearing begins today to decide if federal appeals court judge Kent G. Brown Jackson will be the next justice to serve on the Supreme Court. If confirmed, Brown Jackson will be the first black woman to have a seat on the High Court. CBS's Elise Preston takes a look at what to expect in the coming days.
Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson will deliver an opening statement before the Senate Judiciary Committee today, the first black woman to ever do so as a nominee for the High Court. She would replace Justice Stephen Breyer, for whom she once clerked.
Justice Breyer, the members of the Senate will decide if I fill your seat, but please know that I could never fill your shoes.
The Harvard-educated D.C. appellate judge will then field questions from 11 Senate Democrats and 11 Senate Republicans starting Tuesday. Each senator has 30 minutes to question President Biden's first Supreme Court nominee. Democrats have the slightest margin to confirm Jackson, but it's not clear if any Republicans will vote with them.
I haven't made a final decision as to how I'm going to vote. I'm willing to listen to the testimony. That's why we have hearings.
The American Bar Association gave Jackson its highest rating of well qualified, but some Republican leaders last week questioned her record on protecting children.
I'm not aware of a single case in which Judge Jackson has actually sentenced a child porn offender to the recommended sentence that the federal guidelines say they should get.
The White House called the criticism toxic and weak.
This attack that we've seen over the last couple of days relies on factual inaccuracies and taking Judge Jackson's record wildly out of context.
Democrats are hoping to wrap up Jackson's confirmation by Easter. Elise Preston, CBS News.
Brown Jackson, who's 51 years old, just went through a confirmation last year to earn her spot as a D.C. federal appeals judge. 3 Republicans joined Democrats to confirm her seat. That's a look at today's top national stories. We'll be right back with an exclusive interview with Keely Adams from Northeastern Oklahoma A&M to talk about their upcoming NEO Craft Expo.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. Special guest in studio. Now, while no stranger to the show, Keely Adams, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Keely is the Honors Program Academic Advisor at NEO A&M in Miami. And if Keely looks familiar, it is because that she has been on the program before, just via Zoom.
Yeah.
So very nice to have you.
It's nice to be here this
in
morning.
the studio.
Nice.
You have the upcoming craft fair at NEO, and I kind of want to pick up our previous interviews that we've done because we had to do that via Zoom.
Right.
But now that everybody's out and about, you're here in person, do you expect a bigger turnout? Is there more anticipation, I guess, coming off of our 2.5 years of pandemic?
I believe so, yes. So, of course, we were scheduled to hold the event in 2020, had to cancel the event. We brought the event back last year in 2021 at a somewhat smaller scale. We're bringing it back this year with 50 vendors.
That's amazing.
Something exciting, too, that we have is we're welcoming the Miami Animal Alliance. And so they'll be doing a dog adoption set out right outside our Student Activity Center. So that's something new and different.
And if you've never been to the NEO A&M activity, it's just, you have such marvelous facilities
it is a really
down there.
nice
You
facility.
really are blessed at that university. 50 vendors. So did you feel that there was additional vendor participation, that people were like, I want to be a part of this because the past 2 years have been slow? Do you think that drew people out?
Well, I think what's interesting is over the last couple of years, as more people were at home, I think more people did start crafting.
That's a great point.
And kind of discovered some maybe hidden talents that they had. So there are a few more people that we have coming out this year who have never participated in the event before. We always have a few different groups there that can be expected, but what we really like to focus on is those homemade crafts and things that can be really special that you may not find elsewhere. And we have a lot of that out this year from across the 4-state area.
Now let's talk about the importance of it culturally speaking, not only for NEO, but also Miami in general, because
It's amazing the amount of fairs and things that actually really do go on inside the Miami city limits. What does it mean to NEO to be able to bring people together like this and kind of show off these skills that otherwise may go unnoticed?
I think it's important for us to continue to maintain a good relationship with the community, and also for the community to be on campus. Even though this is not necessarily a student event, I think it's always good exposure when the community can come on campus, see the facilities, and just get an idea of what's going on in the community and what NEO is all about supporting.
So with that being said, do you have any students or do you have anybody that is associated with the university that you know that is going to be part of the craft fair?
There are actually several faculty and staff members who have their own tables. We have probably 5 to 7 of our own employees who are bringing their own crafts to the fair.
So just kind of reset, folks. This is coming up on Saturday. It opens up at 10 a.m. at the NEO A&M Activity Center. It's I want to stress this part. It's free and it's open to everybody. You don't have to be in Miami. You don't have to be a student or a faculty member. It's free and open to everybody. And what you're going to see on display is absolutely amazing. I got a feeling that you're going to want to walk out of the Student Activity Center holding on to something. Keely, it really goes to show how sustainable something is, because you're celebrating your 10th anniversary, well, the craft fair, celebrating its 10th anniversary, and the fact that this has been able to sustain itself for a decade. What does that kind of say, and what growth have you seen from this? And I guess when I talk about growth, let's go ahead and slice 2.5 years out of there. Like let's just pretend those didn't happen. From where you started with this to where you see it now, how have you seen it grow and succeed?
Well, when we originally started this event, it was in our ballroom, which is a somewhat smaller venue, and we've grown from that to move to the Student Activity Center. We make sure we have enough space for everyone. We do have some pretty large vendors, but we have continued to grow every year, which in turn helps us support many different activities for our students.
Let's talk about support, because this actually comes with help from the Friends of NEO A&M. So maybe if you could kind of tell me a little bit about their role and the importance to the Honors College and the college itself.
Yeah, this is actually an event that is organized and hosted by NEO Women and Friends, which was a group that started on campus about 12 years ago with the goal of supporting each other across campus, but most importantly, supporting students. So this group has endowed a scholarship. They have added an outdoor classroom on campus. Some things that we really like to consider at NEO is looking at the student as a whole student. So not only are they a student, but they have lives outside of campus. And if they run into medical issues or have outstanding bills that are somehow impacting their lives and their family, NEO Women and Friends has often stepped in to help those students with those financial concerns.
So it's something that I can tell is very important as far as your role goes at the college and whatnot. I have to ask you, how did you get involved with it and what drew you into it?
So I have always attended the craft fair in the past when I first started working at NEO, but NEO Women and Friends turned their focus to a new group to help a couple of years ago and decided to start supporting the NEO Honors Program, which is kind of where I came into helping with the event as the director of that program. And with the funds that we've received through vendor fees and the like, we've been able to support many activities for our students, cultural trips in the area, events on campus, just things that we can do to give our students continued opportunities.
How are things at the Honors College these days now that everybody is back in class?
They are excellent. Our classes are going really well. We're taking our first study abroad program in May, so that's exciting. We're really excited about that. Italy and Greece.
Get out.
Yeah, 10 days.
Oh my gosh. Okay. If you need a chaperone, you holler. Okay?
I've heard that before.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's chomping at the bit. Like, oh yeah, I got 10 days. I can do that. Once again, the NEO Craft Fair coming up this Saturday. Doors open at 10 a.m. Going to run all the way to 3 p.m. at the NEO Student Activity Center. It's easy enough to find. You get on campus, you're going to run into it and look for the parking lot where all the cars are lined up, because this event is free and open to everybody. Once again, free and open to everybody. Keely telling us 50 vendors on hand this year. That is absolutely amazing. Tell you what, can I ask a favor?
Sure.
Can I get you to stick around and join us here on the KOM Morning News on Fox 14? We'll dive a little bit deeper into the Honors College, the importance of what it means for your students, and also too some other things that we can look for at the craft fair.
That sounds great.
Keely Adams, I want to thank you so much. Keely, once again, the academic advisor at NEO A&M and its honors program, and we'll be back with more KOM Morning News right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, scientists in England say they found a new way to relieve anxiety. They've developed a pillow that breathes when you hug it. Tina Kraus has the story.
When it comes to stressful situations, taking college exams ranks right up there. So the University of Bristol was the perfect setting for British researchers to test their new anti-anxiety device.
What we got them to do was a maths test. So we had them to do some sequencing of numbers, some of which were impossible. So we really ramped up the level of anxiety.
They tested more than 100 students, giving a third of them this breathing cushion to hug before the exam. Its hidden inflatable pouch simulates slow breathing.
That reduced their pre-test anxiety. So they still got anxious, but they got less anxious than if we gave them no intervention whatsoever.
Based on questionnaires, researchers found anxiety scores for cushion-hugging students were similar to those who meditated.
It just has a lovely, intuitive, simple feel to it.
Textile designer Annie Lywood helped create the calming cushion and says dementia patients also find it comforting.
Made them smile, which was lovely, and they didn't want to let go of the cushion.
And they all said, oh, I remember when my child was this size.
Testing is still in the early stages, and the pillow hasn't been tried on patients with diagnosed anxiety disorders, but researchers are hopeful.
We can use therapies, we can use pharmaceutical interventions, but they take time, they cost money, whereas a cushion is just something people intuitively interact with.
And scientists say just a quick cuddle can put anxiety to rest.
Researchers hope to get the breathing cushion into stores within a year and believe hospitals and care homes will also find it useful. Here's another reason to love coffee. The used coffee grounds could someday help detect brain waves. Scientists from the University of Cincinnati used electrodes coated with carbon from the coffee waste and found they were better at sensing dopamine, a neurotransmitter in the brain. Well, that's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back. Coming up, a Greene County firefighter loses his life when his truck overturns.
First come the clouds on this Monday morning, then come the thunderstorms. We'll break down our timing from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, the scene of a shooting turns into a homicide investigation for the Pittsburgh Police Department.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. Let's toss it over to Michael, where we're going to talk about some rain we're waiting on, and you're saying thunderstorms later on?
Thunderstorms are coming, Bronte. Good old-fashioned springtime
no.
weather going to encompass the 4 states, not only for today, but we're going to have to ride this all the way through the middle of the week. Now, we're dry right now over 7th and Rangeline. As a matter of fact, almost too dry. That humidity sinking down to 54%. Believe it or not, elevated fire concerns for the early morning before the rain hits. It's something else. It's a little here, there, and everywhere because that humidity has yet to pick up with the moisture that'll move in from the south and the west. Temperature is very mild. It's pleasant when you step outside. 50 in Joplin and Carthage. Let's roll 50 in Chanute. 46 in Miami. 54 in Nevada. The circular clear skies that we had are slowly closing in on us. So we're not going to have a whole lot of sunshine today, and that's because not only are the clouds going to arrive, but eventually thunderstorm activity as well. We'll pick it up here probably about 10, 11 a.m. is when we'll get started in earnest. There it is, moving in from the south and the west. The heavy rain is going to move through OKC and Tulsa up toward us. And instead of just going straight due north, it's going to spread east into southwest Missouri for the afternoon and evening hours. And that's going to be some heavy rain coming down right there. Look at this. We get a little Tuesday early morning break, but then while Tuesdays doesn't look as widespread, I'm going to tell you that band that's going to roll through is actually going to intensify. And what that will do is increase not only our thunder and lightning, but also high winds and the possibility of hail. It's higher on Tuesday than it is on Monday. We go back down to shower activity for Wednesday and Thursday, but also want to point out Wednesday and Thursday much, much cooler as we'll only top out in the 40s. So I think by the time we get to the middle of the week, everybody's going to be looking toward Friday.
Definitely.
Chance for some sunshine and 60s.
I'm really have my eyes set on that just sunshine graphic.
If you look at the latter third of the 7-day forecast, you go, that's going to be delightful.
Yes.
We just got to get to the latter third.
Just got to get through the week. All right, thanks, Michael. On Friday, the 4 states paid their final respects to Officer Jake Reed. Reed was killed in the same shootout that also took the life of fellow officer Corporal Ben Cooper. And once again, Missouri Southern's Leggett and Platt Center was filled with hundreds of mourners. Speakers recounted his life of service and sacrifice, noting that as an organ donor, Reed continues to save lives. They say they'll remember him for his humor and love of life.
But Jake was a friend that was caring, goofy, funny, and ultimately showed that he cared. I will truly miss him deeply, and I'll miss talking about how country he had become because he bought 3 acres with the house. I really hope he doesn't ask God to tailor his wings like he did his pants.
Don't stop doing the things you love. Don't stop golfing, watching football, watching baseball, or video gaming. Jake wouldn't want that. Instead, do these things with a purpose. And think of Jake while you're doing these things. And think about all the good times we shared with him. This is not a goodbye, but yet a see you later, my friend.
You can see the entire funeral service for Officer Jake Reed through the KOAM News Now YouTube page or by clicking on this story on KOAMnewsnow.com. Officer Jake Reed is 27 years old. A Southwest Missouri firefighter was killed in the line of duty. Just before 9 o'clock Friday night, 36-year-old Dustin Brandhorst was driving a fire truck to the scene of a structure fire in Greene County. The truck traveled off the right side of the roadway and overturned, killing Brandhorst. Brandhorst was a member of the Ebenezer Fire Protection District. A report of a shooting turned into a homicide investigation for Pittsburgh police. Officials with the Pittsburgh Police Department say they received a call regarding a shooting at 111 West Park Street. When officers arrived, they found 64-year-old Harold Sheets of Pittsburgh with a gunshot wound. He was pronounced dead on the scene. Officers questioned 61-year-old Verla Gilliand of Pittsburgh and then placed her under arrest, awaiting charges of second-degree murder. Police say they believe the incident came from an argument between the two. Gilliand is being held on $150,000 bond. Well, today, President Biden is holding a phone call with the leaders of France, Germany, Italy, and the UK to discuss the war in Ukraine. The Ukrainians continue to resist Russia's invasion despite heavy shelling of major cities. Elise Preston has the details.
Ukrainian officials rejected a Russian demand to surrender the port city of Mariupol by early this morning. Residents there have faced some of the harshest attacks by Russian forces.
What happens in Mariupol is an epitome of war crime. Instead of simply opening a humanitarian corridors as we agreed and letting people out and letting supplies in, Russians are just trying to take the city down.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says the invasion has stalled and believes Russian President Vladimir Putin will escalate his attacks to build momentum.
We've seen him attack towns and cities and civilians outright. We expect to see that continue.
This video shows a large blast in the suburbs of Kyiv. Firefighters pulling someone from the rubble.
There is just 1% chance for us to stop this war.
Speaking to CNN, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's willing to negotiate with Putin, but rejected a proposal to recognize separatist regions.
You cannot force people to love the enemy. That's impossible.
Zelensky released this video showing the destruction of his country.
This was my home.
But vowed to rebuild.
It will become great.
Later this week, President Biden meets with NATO allies in Brussels and on Friday goes to Poland to discuss the humanitarian crisis. Elise Preston, CBS News.
The White House says there are no plans for the president to visit Ukraine. The United Nations says 10 million people have been displaced, with more than 3 million leaving the country. Well, before March 21st, 1952, no one had ever heard of a rock concert. Disc jockey Alan Freed changed all that. The self-styled father of rock and roll began dedicating 3 hours of late-night airplay to rhythm and blues records by black musicians on Cleveland's classical radio station WJW. Freed adopted a new hip persona and vocabulary that included liberal use of the phrase rock and roll to describe the music he was now promoting. Another first-of-a-kind promotion was the Moondog Coronation Ball, a live dance event to showcase the music being featured on Freed's show. An estimated 20,000 to 25,000 fans turned out for an event being held in an arena with a capacity of only 10,000, and police shut down the event almost before it began.
Pretty amazing when you think about Cleveland radio history in the fact that they've had a number of DJs that have kind of done off-the-wall things that have turned into national phenomena, of all places.
Yeah.
The Mistake on the Lake. Whoa!
What?
I don't know if that was called for, Sorotsky.
I didn't.
Referring to Cleveland as the Mistake on the Lake? I have family there, by the way.
You said that, and
How about
I
that?
didn't know what that meant.
Cannot even believe you said that.
Yeah, because my voice totally sounds like that.
Cuyahoga River caught on fire one time, folks. Don't get caught downtown. Weather trend for our next 24 hours. Clouds kicking in right now, and then comes the rain. Later this morning, it picks up. We're looking at, and when I say we're looking at 1.5 to 2 inches, that's really going to be from the beginning of today all the way through Thursday. Cooler temperatures Wednesday and Thursday as well. Let's look forward to Friday when we get sunshine in the 60s.
All right, well, that's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. One thing technology hasn't changed is the need for agriculture. One thing it has changed is who's driving the tractor. Plus, award season is well underway, and we want to know how excited you are for the Academy Awards. We'll let you weigh in, and we'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, with spring right around the corner, it's about to be a busy time for farmers. John Deere recently revealed a new machine that the company says can help make farmers' jobs much easier. A self-driving tractor. Company officials say it's been in the works for about 25 years. Montse Ricasa has more on how the autonomous tractor can impact farming.
The future of farming is here, with an autonomous tractor taking the farmer out of the cab.
If you think back to going from horses to tractors, and now from manned tractors to autonomous tractors, this is definitely a very important point in our history. And by bringing more automation to agriculture, and the final step of that automation is autonomy, we can help make sure that the critical work is done on the farm when it needs to be done, and done the way in which it needs to be done in order to grow all of the food for a growing population.
With the growing worker shortage, Deanna Kovar says this self-driving tractor helps make that easier for farmers, especially since it can not only be time-consuming, but difficult too.
Agriculture is outdoor manufacturing, but nothing is consistent in the field. Soil types are different, moisture is different, elevation is different. And so in order to get the job done with skilled labor on time and consistently, it takes a lot. And with autonomy, we can help solve those problems to help farmers be more timely, be more efficient, and also support their quality of life.
6 cameras provide 360-degree views and know the field's perimeters. Farmers can now put their focus on another part of the work or onto their families.
Farmers can use their phone to monitor the progress and see how well the field is being tiled. The company says by the fall, between 10 and 50 autonomous machines will be running in the U.S., primarily the upper Midwest. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Bronte. This morning on the KOAM News Now Instapoll, talking about the Oscars, specifically that woman right there, who has, I should have gone through and I should have looked up how many hits she actually had. Diane Warren has written a multitude of great songs, but she hasn't ever won an Oscar. But she's nominated again this year, and it's a pretty impressive category. There's Celine, by the way. Celine Dion should, I hope Diane Warren still gets a whole bunch of residuals from Celine. That's what I'm saying. Our question for you this morning, are you excited about the Oscars coming up? And right now, 94% of you say, nope, not on the radar. 6% of you say, yeah, you will tune in to see if Diane Warren wins. You can check out our Instapoll each and every morning, KOAMNewsNow.com/vote. You can also go to our Facebook page, KOAM News Now. We're going to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries in a bit, but first, let's check in with Tony. A look at what's coming up on CBS Mornings.
I'm Tony Nicopol. Coming up on CBS Mornings, confirmation hearings for President Biden's Supreme Court nominee. That is Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, a historic pick. We'll have the latest on what senators are saying. That's coming up on CBS Mornings.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Patrick McReynolds. Patrick McReynolds served in the Air Force from 1971 to 1974. He was stationed at Lowry Air Force Base and Holloman Air Force Base. his hometown, Parsons, Kansas. We thank you. Today's Force-Day hero, Patrick McReynolds.
The birthday list begins with Sky Dewey as he is celebrating his 8th birthday. Sky, I want you to have a marvelous day, kiddo. He's in Chanute.
Next, out of Pittsburgh, Elizabeth Falk, also turning 8 years old. Happy birthday, Elizabeth.
We should get birthday coffee there.
Looks like it.
Ain't bad. Amory Skaggs celebrating an 8th birthday as well. A pretty cool picture right there, Amory. She is in Seneca, and I want you to know that these birthday wishes come with love from Mom and Daddy, Aspen, Tyler, Olivia, Ava, Boston, and Nanny. My goodness. That's a lot of family members right there. Happy birthday.
Next, out of Riverton, we have a Riverton middle schooler, Raiden Lindsay. Raiden's birthday was on Friday, and Raiden turned 12.
On to the teenage years, because Kaylee Wixon is celebrating her 13th, a little Baxter Springs Lion Pride right there. Kaylee, a very happy birthday to you.
Nayali Baldwin in Oswego is turning 14, so happy birthday.
Time to take a trip to the DMV and a Sweet 16. A very happy birthday to Madeline Balloon. Madeline, I hope your Sweet 16 is wonderful. She is in Fort Scott.
Gerard Sr. Bramborn turning 18 today. Happy birthday, Bram.
Trojan Pride right there. Tristan Nesbitt is turning 25 with the cake and candles to prove it. Tristan, a happy birthday to you in Oswego.
Then out of Fredonia, we have Victor Harbers turning 42 years old.
Hold on.
What?
First rule, boat captain is never wrong. Second rule, refer to first rule. Love it. Happy birthday, Victor. That's tremendous. Debbie Jones turning number 51. Miss Debbie in a world full of princesses. Yes, indeed. And Debbie celebrating in Moran.
Then in Fort Scott, we are celebrating Larry Oplotnik.
And we're not done with the Oplotniks yet. We're going to revisit the Oplotniks here coming up in just a little bit. And Larry's got some splaining to do on his 66th birthday. So Larry, stay tuned. A happy birthday to you, first off. Well, I love Larry, but also, too, I got a question for him here in just a little bit. So don't go anywhere, Larry. Enjoy your birthday. Jennifer Westervelt, she is celebrating a birthday in Columbus. To Miss Jennifer, we say a happy birthday to you, ma'am.
Also, celebrating a birthday in Pittsburgh, we have Nancy Garzone. I love that shirt. It's like a St. Patrick's Day.
That is very cool.
Happy birthday, Nancy.
Happy
and
birthday,
I love
Nancy.
that sweater. I hope you're wearing that today.
Jack Dutton is celebrating his 63rd birthday. Jack, a very happy birthday to you in Joplin. Mickey Alexander, a happy birthday in Erie. And Mike DePay is celebrating his 61st in Chanute.
All right, we have Gary Oplotnik.
Uh-huh.
I see what you're saying now.
Uh-huh.
He's turning 66 from Claremore, and he's Larry's twin brother.
So, and I'm not even calling out Gary on this one. I'm calling out Larry. So Larry, we got a picture of you, right? Okay. Okay. You take that up with Gary here later on. I see how it is. But a very happy birthday to both the Oplotnik brothers. Joshua Page, party on in Fairland. We got a 21st on our hands. Y'all be safe down there and have a good time. John Haggerty had a birthday over the weekend. He's in Pittsburgh, and for John, we're just like, he's 70-ish. He's somewhere in there. It'll work. And let's give Glenn and Barbara Wilkerson their own screen right there, because they had a quite a milestone as they were celebrating their 65th wedding anniversary. Congratulations to both Glenn and Barbara as they celebrate in Cherokee. A happy birthday and happy anniversary to all on this March the 21st. Now here's Bronte Sorosky with a very important birthday announcement.
You can be part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And you can even get special deals from local businesses. So go to KOAMnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Coming up on the KOAM. Oh, I got you.
You continue,
Coming up on the
Michael.
KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 as the Russian invasion of Ukraine continues. More people are looking for ways to show their support, and many turning to some novel and creative ways to help a war-torn portion of the country. We'll have that story coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be back right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. A Joplin police officer is assaulted by a suspect and another officer opens fire, injuring the suspect. According to Captain Trevor Duncan with JPD, just before 11:30 Saturday night, officers checked on 3 people who were walking near 9th and Connor in the alley. When officers made contact, one of the people took off running and an officer chased after them. That person then assaulted the officer and another officer fired, shooting the suspect. The suspect was taken into custody and is being treated at a local hospital. The officer who fired is on paid administrative leave per JPD policy. The suspect's name and officer's name are not being released at this time. The officer who was assaulted was treated and released at the scene. Their name is also not being released. The Joplin Police Department's major crash team is investigating a serious crash near the airport. Officials say around 3 o'clock Sunday morning, a car traveling west on MacArthur Drive out of Webb City left the right side of the road and crashed into the concrete base of a traffic signal at St. Louis and Highway 171. The driver of the car, a 50-year-old woman, was transported to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Officials say she was not wearing her seatbelt. There were no other people in the car. Police say 1 person was killed and at least 24 others were injured in a shooting outside a car show in Arkansas. It happened Saturday night in Dumas, a city about 75 miles southeast of Little Rock. Investigators say the gunfire erupted during a car show, which was a fundraiser for local schools. Children were at the car show, but police have not said if any of them were hurt. 1 person is in custody, though there are reports there were multiple shooters involved. Pittsburgh police are investigating a homicide. Officials with the Pittsburgh Police Department say they received a call regarding a shooting at 111 West Park Street. When officers arrived, they found 64-year-old Harold Sheets of Pittsburgh with a gunshot wound. He was pronounced dead on the scene. Officers questioned 61-year-old Verla Gilliand of Pittsburgh and then placed her under arrest awaiting charges of second-degree murder. Police say they believe the incident came from an argument between the two. Gilliand is being held on a $150,000 bond. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Nice looking shot outside of Television City right there with the cloud cover and the sun beginning to warm the glow everywhere from a little pink into the purples, but we know what's a-coming, and that is rain, including thunderstorms. Get some thunder and lightning mixed in with some heavy rain that begins later on this morning, so about 10 o'clock is when we see it off to the south and to the west, and then crossing across the Missouri state line for the afternoon and evening hours. A little bit of a Tuesday morning break, but then Tuesday morning we're right back at it. And these Tuesday rains, while not as widespread as what we'll see today, today we'll see the widest spread rain, but Tuesday actually is our greatest threat for some high winds and hail.
Well, definitely an eventful week weather-wise.
And then we get 40s for the middle of the week.
Oh, wow. Well, coming up today at noon, we're making loaded potato roll-ups in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Of course, your morning news continues on KOAM. CBS Mornings coming up next. A drama school becomes the latest site for Russian aggression in Ukraine. As U.S. officials warn, the invasion is increasingly targeting civilians.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local news continues. This morning, we've got Keely Adams coming in the studio to tell us more about the upcoming Craft Expo. You don't want to miss it.
And plus, we're going to take a look at how people are reaching across the world, reaching out to Ukraine, and a time-honored tradition of pen pals. Those stories when we move on over to Fox 14. That wraps it up for this Monday edition. Remember, don't go anywhere without an umbrella this week. Stay safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we'll see you today at noon after the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14.